Whether you otter dressed like a punk or marry your dog, to another dog that is, the Newswatch newsreel will still go on, and here's Ken Dickman.
In the newsreel's tradition of documenting births of cute animals, the Vancouver Aquarium has a new addition. It's a baby sea otter, the first ever born in captivity in Canada.
Oh, isn't that cute?
The mommy otter has been with the aquarium for 2 years. Daddy, who goes by the alias Cordoba, has been there for 6.
The mother is doing very, very well. This is her first pup, we know that. And as a first-time mother, she's doing an absolutely superlative job.
It will be another couple of months before anyone knows if the little darling is a boy or a girl. Until then, it will stay on Mom's chest, sleeping and growing up a bit. Now that's otter heaven. London. Refined, old world, charming. Trendy and beyond. As a salute to fashion, the King's Road stands alone. In fact, it defies description. Fashion leaders like Madeline Smith are strictly no-nonsense. Hair is no longer constricted to boring, blunt cuts and dull colors, like brown. The ever-popular punk and skinhead looks light up the night, though the two trends are separate, according to Nigel Badger McPhail.
Punk is more creative, more inventive, more art. Skinhead is just a shaved head and a load of tattoos.
But the skinheads, too, have left their marks. Certainly, color, shape, and style never looked so colorful, shapely, and stylish. Toto, I don't think we're in Kansas anymore. In this dog-eat-dog world, it's nice to know that unleashed love still makes its bark heard. Bobby Reckman and Shauna DeRusso finally tied the knot after several years of love at the back fence in Las Vegas. No cold paws here as the best dog sat by. You may kiss the bride. The wedding march played as the happy couple left the chapel, anxious to trot off to their honeymoon in Chihuahua, Mexico. So love really is blind. The bride was a real dog.
That's Newswatch for Friday, January 28th. I'm Mary Alice Williams in New York. You play a good game Sunday, Bill. I'll be rooting for you.
Me too. See you then, M.A., on Monday, and see you then, too. Hopefully Lou Waters will be back with us.
From Turner Broadcasting System, this is Cable News Network.
Less than close attention to television when they watch it, and of those who pay less than close attention, parents with children under 18 pay the least close attention.
Well, why would that surprise anybody? Children over 18 are not likely to be pulling at your skirt, asking how do you spell cat, why is the sky blue? Dr. Pollack says TV is not pernicious. It doesn't rob you of time with friends and family. It doesn't take you away from good works. And why? Because nobody listens.
The findings suggest that television is not so compelling a medium that it carries the power to weaken or sweep away primary commitments to kin and community, molding us into narrow addicts.
Darn it all anyway, we thought we had you hooked. Chris Chase, CNN Media Watch.
Called a period of stabilization. This is a change from earlier U.S. support for a UN resolution which calls for immediate withdrawal from Lebanon. Future U.S. actions in the region are causing much concern among the president's visitors, including Senate Majority Leader Howard Baker. He says the suggestion of sending American soldiers into Lebanon, even as part of a multinational peacekeeping force, is an idea which he can't live with.
I would not favor the use of American troops in a peacekeeping force in Lebanon, certainly not as the lead force. I would not support the intervention of American troops into that region on any basis at this time.
Another controversy which came up at this meeting is over U.S. involvement in NATO. There's some suggestion that British involvement in the Falklands will require it to continue using its NATO ships in the South Atlantic rather than in NATO's North Atlantic waters. This could force additional U.S. participation in the NATO military force. That prospect causes some concern to Senate Democratic leader Robert Byrd, but much more concern to Republican Ted Stevens.
If the pressure is put on the British as strongly as we think it will be to fortify the Falklands,
race in order to make money on their bets at the Aqueduct, Yonkers, and Roosevelt racetracks. This investigation came to light when the FBI asked a federal judge's permission to hold back some of its videotaped evidence. This request came at the arraignment of 12 men on extortion and racketeering charges, which resulted from the same Little Rex probe.
You don't know what he's taking a picture of me for.
One of the defendants assaulted a New York City WABC cameraman as they proceeded to the Westbury, Long Island courtroom for that arraignment. The 12 indicted include Vincent DiNapoli, a man law enforcement authorities call the mob boss of the Bronx, and Theodore Meritas, the president of New York City's Carpenters Union. The FBI has evidence that for a payoff, they guaranteed
Kemp is feinting, struck by Passarella. And Vandenberg, and a brilliant save from Ramon Diaz. And now McAltron, and possibilities here for Belgium. And Carleman took too long, but Van der Smeeten straight to Filiol. Van der Smeeten, a wasted moment really by Belgium. McAltron and Vandenberg scores. Passarella trying to get the wall back. It's Maradona off the underside of the bar, and Kempes can't turn it in.
about 1900?
Yeah, we had some.
Shredded by the Israeli planes. Attacks on Saturday demolished the upper floors of this apartment complex, a place apparently used at times by Palestinian leader Yasser Arafat. And this 7-building apartment complex at Shatila Circle was hit by several high explosive bombs, and soldiers said several persons are still buried underneath the rubble. Survivors volubly complained about the attacks, insisting the Israelis were deliberately targeting civilian housing. At a nearby martyrs cemetery, Mrs. Maiza Kali mourned her daughter, niece, and mother, who she said died in the bombing. There has been no official count made of casualties in Beirut, but they're believed to be less than the many hundreds reportedly killed in more serious bombing and artillery raids by the Israelis on captured cities in South Lebanon. So Beirut is relatively quiet today. But will the ceasefire hold? A PLO doctor we talked to doubted it. He said the Israeli aim was to break the will of the people and that they would keep on pressing until they achieved that goal. Peter Arnett, CNN, Beirut.
The British advance on Port Stanley continues with more heavy fighting reported. 400 Argentine prisoners have been taken. But the price in British dead and wounded is rising. The defense minister reported more details of yesterday's mass attack.
The land operations were supported by Harrier attacks and naval gunfire from ships of the task force. There was also a successful Vulcan attack on Port Stanley Airport. These attacks made a major contribution to the success of our troops. However, in the course of the bombardment, the destroyer HMS Glamorgan was hit by enemy fire, and 9 members of the ship's company were killed and 17 injured. Next of kin have been informed. HMS Glamorgan sustained some damage, but she remains operational and is continuing her activities in the task force. In further operations today, an Argentine patrol craft was detected, attacked, and disabled by Sea Harriers from HMS Invincible.
In the attack, 2 women civilians were killed and 4 people injured in the west end of the town. The British have accepted a Red Cross call for a neutral zone in Port Stanley, where civilians could seek refuge during the fighting. The number of dead and injured in last Tuesday's bombing of 2 British landing ships near Fitzroy has been revealed. 50 men died and 55 were injured.
Total British casualties in the Falklands operation now exceed 200. While the defense minister has expressed confidence that the outcome is now certain, even after Port Stanley falls, the British have to deal with a 1,000-man Argentine garrison on the West Island. The battle for the Falklands is far from over. Clark Todd, CTV News, London.
In their advance towards Port Stanley.
Falando agora à noite, o ministro da Defesa John Nott anunciou que na noite de sexta para sábado, tropas britânicas conquistaram as elevações de Monte Langdon, Duas Irmãs e Monte Harriet, que dominam a área imediatamente ao oeste de Porto Argentino. Segundo o ministro, os ingleses capturaram 400 prisioneiros e grande quantidade de equipamento pesado.
medical supplies, and even the Red Cross and United Nations cannot get across to them to bring them food supplies. And the Israelis are requiring everybody to just simply walk in the street, raise a white flag if he wants to go buy some food or look for some water. And from the civilian point of view, this is mass genocide, and unfortunately the State Department is silent about this. It is really shameful and a great disgrace for the US government. I know that the American people have spoken against this. We are receiving lots of support about this, but for the US government, I think it has participated in a grave mass murder of Lebanese and Palestinians.
What about the lack of action on the part of other Arab nations then?
Well, as you know, there have been Arab support. Syria joined in the fighting. There have been volunteers coming from some other countries, but there is no comparison in the military balance, really. The Palestinians, Lebanese have bore the brunt of this war, and the civilian toll is simply unbelievable. And I think in the next few hours, the more news will be coming out about this, because most of the news in this country is coming from the Israeli censored military.
We have to get back to Atlanta. One final question. Does the PLO feel betrayed by Syria in that Syria has agreed to a ceasefire with Lebanon, with Israel?
No, on the contrary. I think Syria fought with the Palestinians. The war is not over yet. And I, again, want to stress to you, I don't believe the Israelis, and I think they have further aims.
Thank you very much, Dr. Husseini, for coming in. Okay. Now back to Don in Atlanta. All right.
Women bear the children called to become cannon fodder. Women are the majority of those who suffer when the Pentagon takes from welfare programs, takes from food supplement programs, takes from Social Security to pay for weapons. Women in every country are organizing for peace. With us today are women from Sweden, Canada, Chile, Grenada, representing similar efforts of their sisters throughout the world. I'd like you to meet Edith Ballantyne, the Secretary General of the Women's International League for Peace and Freedom based in Geneva.
I bring you greetings from the Women's International League for Peace and Freedom. I wish you could be up here and look at yourselves down there. It's a marvelous sight. We must be well over 1 million here in the park. And I can tell you that there are probably many millions walking and marching in other parts of the world today. The governments meeting over at the United Nations talking about disarmament will take note. They will have to take notice of our wishes and of our determination to put an end to the arms race. If they don't, we're going to be out here in many millions more tomorrow and the day after until that arms race is stopped. We women are certainly fed up with the waste that goes into the arms race and that deprives us of decent lives and our children of proper care and a decent future. I don't need to tell you anymore. You're here. We know what we want. We want an end to the arms race. We want peace, and we want to live in peace and friendship.
Despite the incredible chill in the air, more and more people are filing into an already very, very crowded Central Park, and it's got to be in part due to the musical talent. Jackson Browne, a scheduled performer, brought in some surprise guests. One of them was Gary U.S. Bonds. Another was Joan Baez, who had the whole crowd singing John Lennon's Imagine. And then the biggest surprise of all was Bruce Springsteen, who got a standing ovation for performing with Jackson Browne, his famous Running on Empty. Right now at the podium, we're hearing from international women's groups on disarmament. Let's hear what they have to say.
Tested in Alberta or anywhere else. Yes to making Canada a nuclear-free zone. No No to Canada exporting nuclear reactors and fuel. Yes to disarmament now. Today, we have started to turn the tide of the arms buildup. We, the people, must make our governments turn to disarmament.